Warcraft world. So I think they use World of Warcraft to do some scenes in that movie.
I don't know the movie, but maybe for sure. I don't know the movie, but it was used many times in the cinema. But the principal use in cinema is is using Machinima as a visualization. Principal use in cinema is one of the tool I is using Machinima as a visualization. Principal use in cinema is one of the tool I when I show Machinima as a visualization. Principal use in cinema is one of the tool I when I show Machinima as a visualization. Principal use in cinema is one of the tool I when I show Machinima as a visualization. Principal use in cinema is just to know who is with us. Hello, Gert. But just yet to finish what I was saying, I always try to adapt the content to the audience, knowing that you don't have specially to be a gamer in order to be able to create machinimas. So I always present like 3 different techniques. Again, one, hello. We have 2 new persons with us. Yeah, there are like 3 main techniques to make machinimas. The first one, the most basic one is to play to a video game on a computer and to record what is on the screen, and then we will have to edit. That's the most basic way to make machinima, but just the idea of doing it is not so common for everyone. So sometimes I give like workshops in art schools, and even like art students have like a difficulty to imagine that what they do normally in their spare time and as entertainment could be actually used to create artworks and to produce content. So it just sometimes just upside trick just to change our mindset. And welcome. Hello. So we have, I was starting to discuss a little bit with Gaëtan, who was there before, but would you mind just to introduce yourself to me, and like that I know a little bit about you, your background, and like that I can really, adapt the content for you. I was just talking about how I adapt the content to the audience. So if I know a little bit what you do and how it could be useful for you, I can. Who wants to?
Thank you, Isabelle. My name is Samantha Sam. I am in Enschede in the Netherlands. I am from Mexico, but I've been living in the Netherlands for 4 years now. I came to study my master's in philosophy of technology. So I am interested in, asking questions about how to develop more diverse, more inclusive, also have more reach of video games art, connecting video games art, philosophy, technology. And I also like, I think in your interview, I'm a traditional storyteller, I would say so. In your interview, you said like this term, and I'm like, I don't know what traditional means, but I consider myself a storyteller. So I would like to, kind of see what stories or how can stories be told with the tools that you're going to show us in your workshop.
Yeah, so sorry, sometimes my English is really like more Franglish than English, proper English. What I was like trying to mean that I worked with Togolese. I think in English we would say folkloric storyteller.
Okay.
But for me, it sounds strange because in French, when we speak about folklore, it has a little pejorative sense. So sometimes I'm lost in translation. But so I work with and we were like trying to see how we can use digital technology to revive some culture that for few cycles has been hidden by colonization. Anyway,
Interesting. No, thank you for the clarification. Yes, and my same with my English is more like Spanglish sometimes, but okay, then we will understand each other.
Okay, thank you. And as this, do I pronounce your name well?
Yeah, it's Austis. I am
nice to meet you.
You too. I'm from Iceland and I live in Enschede. This is my 4th year, and I study at the AKI, at the Art Academy. I'm in fine art, and I make video art and sound performance. So yeah, the reason I wanted to see this workshop was to develop more skills and see what I can do more with video and technology.
In the fabulous world of independent and experimental game creation, yeah, it's like an entire world. Okay, thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do have Gert. Also, I hope I pronounce your name well.
Hi. Yeah, I'm using someone else's account. My actual name is Jasmijn.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Well, I'm from Enschede. I still live here. And I wanted to see what this workshop was all about because it seemed interesting.
Okay. Okay. And I don't know if you are a gamer or an artist or...
Well, I'm not a paid artist, but I do like to make art.
Great. Yeah, I don't know how to be a paid artist, but anyway, workshop maybe. Sorry. Nice to meet you. Sarah? Oh.
Yes, I will. I'm Sarah. I'm from Belgium. And yes, I studied arts, and I'm actually a video artist, so I like experimenting in After Effects a lot. But I never really used games or the aesthetics of games, but I'm really interested in it. So that's why I joined this workshop.
Thank you for joining, and thank you for your presentation. And I think we also are with Marie, I guess. Or perhaps not immediately, but we were just talking together before. So I'm very, very pleased to have you with me today. So me, I'm in Provence, close to Aix-en-Provence, voilà. So I won't speak too much about my background, but just for you to know, I've been like a curator in art and video games for 20 years. And let's say only 10 years ago, I started to make like videos with video games or video games engines. For me, it was quite like doing the work of an activist. To do these Machinima workshops, because when I first started these workshops, they were intended only to teenagers, mostly in the outskirts, suburbs, because I was thinking that there are like many people who are fired from school or who are like outside the school system, but still they are like super skilled in video games. And why not using video games as a medium to produce content, to express ourselves? So it was really a way to try to change the world at that time when I started these workshops. And then I decided to open it to a larger audience. So I started to do like Machinima workshops in art schools. But actually the point is, because as an introduction, it's very easy to make Machinima. We will see that in a few minutes. We're going to play on our computer and we will use a software to record what we are doing on the computer, and so our gameplay, and then we will press the button again and we will have a short film. And then of course the point is really to have a project or to have a story, or the subject, the story, the project is always coming first. And then what we are doing basically is to use games as colors on canvas, because let's say we want a certain type of landscape. We know this game where we can find it, so we're gonna record it, and then we need this type of action, so we will use these games, and then our film or our project becomes a mosaic of. But having said that, we can also use like game engines. So if you have the skills. For me, when I give a workshop, for sure, I cannot give a workshop on in 3 hours, for example, on how to use Unity to make a movie with Unity. Would be hard. But if you have the knowledge, if you have the skills, of course, it could be possible. What I do is that I always use, for people who are not very comfortable with video games, and not to lose them, I also propose to work with a software. The name is Movie Storm. So they stopped to develop it in 2013. So the quality of the 3D images are like from that moment, a specific moment. So you still have a lot of polygons, but it's very useful because, and I used it many times, even for my work, that I could just show you a few minutes of my videos. Because even if it's like very figurative, it's we tend to say that it's like a Sims-like. You can still divert it or hack it, and for example, most of the time what I do is very abstract. So I will show you. And again, I use it because for some audiences, it's like easier. And also you have like this lip sync tool that helps you to, if you need to speak and have this lip sync synchronization, it's easy. And then the last possibility, but I guess considering what you told me, we might not use it, but if you are interested in, I will show you. So I will use my other computer. It will be very DIY in order to show you how you can use the game GTA to make a movie, because in GTA, it's one of the few games in which there is a video editor inside. So you, as always, you play, you can record what you are doing, your gameplay, but then it's possible to get inside the movie sequence and to change the camera point of views, to add like some effects, or there is also a director's mode in which you can select your main character, and then you can also transform the set. using the quality of a big triple A production. So of course, everybody will say, "Oh, it's good quality." Yeah, for sure. It comes from a game that costs like millions. Voila. So if you are okay with it, I could just start by showing like little moments of I could show you very quickly little moments of some of my videos. And then I could start immediately to show you how to make your machinima. So I will share my screen. Oui, for sure.
Small question. What was the name of the program? Movie Stone?
Movie Storm. I can write it. Okay,
Yeah.
you know what? I can even do that.
Oh, yeah, nice. Thank you.
I can do that. Non, on est à Overkill. Non, c'est Movie Storm là. So, and when you arrive on this, you go to the original Movie Storm website. And then here you can download the FilmMaker. I use it because it's very easy software to use. And again, if you don't feel comfortable with games, or it's a good alternative. And for some specific moments in our project, we might be in the need of using Movie Storm. What I wanted to say as well, before to start to show you some films, is that what I've been trying to do during this world tour I was doing till August, in every country where I gave a workshop, what I tried was to use the games of the person I met during my tour, in order like that to disseminate the games I found in Korea, in Taiwan, in Mexico, in Argentina. Like that, the point was to see what could, come out from, I don't know, Machinima made in Argentina, using a Japanese game, and so on and so on. So that's as part of the introduction. Okay, let's, I would like to show you my first Machinima. So actually I did it as a curator, not as an artist. To be a curator, it's really hard to pass to the other side of artist. It's almost, anyway. If you can just tell me if it's fluid or not at all. Huh? That's why I won't show so much, but so that's my first one in 2012. Using Movie Storm.
Les pieds sur cette planète, chacun de nous est projeté dans le grand jeu de la vie, un jeu dont nous n'avons pas été autorisés à définir les règles.
In French.
Dans ce monde, les actions humaines ne sont pas déterminées librement, mais nous pouvons toujours essayer de trouver un juste milieu entre les règles du jeu et le terrain de jeu où réside la liberté humaine.
So it's about identity in digital era.
Dans lesquels 7 milliards de tragicomédies sont effectuées. Par conséquent, pour chacun d'entre nous, la question la plus importante dans la vie est « Tu veux jouer ?» Alors c'est la question que je vous pose. Tu veux jouer? Est-ce que vous voulez jouer avec moi? Est-ce que vous voulez rentrer dans mon jeu?
So sorry about that. I didn't think that it was in French. But the point of this film was to talk about digital, about identity in the digital era. And it was also about the fact that we are all another person for the others. So we are all a stranger for someone else. And it was also about the fact that in most of the games, the other are always an enemy, a villain, a terrorist, and I was against that. So my point was to say that maybe the other is a collaborator or friend. And as you can see, I take the appearance of a man of color, and that's who I am inside. So anyway, that was my first film, but not really like abstract, as I mentioned before. I also did another one, which is more let's see where it can be.
Isabelle, just for my understanding, how long regularly are your videos, and why is the definition, or what is this concept of machinima that you use? Is the first time that I've also heard it in your interview, but I was not
Sure.
familiar.
I should have started with that. Thank you for asking. Machinima comes from the merge of machine for video game and cinema for cinema. So the most common definition is the creating a movie in real time inside a virtual environment. Can be a game engine or a video game, but it could be like Second Life, for example. So it's really like dealing with 3D real-time rendering in a virtual environment. So instead of using a camera, we will use the in-game camera. And the main difference between animation and machinima is that in animation, you animate image by image. And with machinima, you use the game engine to render in real time what you are doing. So for example, when you are in Movie Storm, you are really in a 3D space. And when you make an animation, it's rendered in real time by the game engine. So in Movie Storm, for example, we are not using a game per se, but we are using the game technology. So, but we are not like creating a game. When we are working on a machinima, we are just using a game for something else. And the first machinima were made in the 90s. They started with games like Doom and then Quake. And at first they were called the Quake movies. But then ID Software, the publisher, said that it was not possible to use their IP to speak about something that was not their game. So that's where someone's name, he died recently, Hugh Hancock, that's him who created this word machinima, and then there was a mistake in the spelling and it became machinima, which is one of the worst part of machinima. It's his name, because when you speak about machinima, nobody knows what it is, and then you have to explain that movie with video games, and then people think about the demos where people are like playing and explaining what they do, which is not a machinima because it's a demo. And so that's where it comes from. And the thing is that at the start, it was really like something made in a very small community of developers and game makers. But immediately, the game industry understood that it was very powerful, that it was something invented by the players, but as an emerging gameplay. And instead of like saying, it's forbidden. Like the first reaction of music and cinema when the internet appeared, it was like, no, no, no. And then they were running after during 20 years to be back in the game. But the game industry did something totally different. They understood that they could make money from it. And it's not like the beautiful game industry, so to speak, but they immediately understood the power and started to integrate tools to make films inside video games. I think the first one was in 2002, and it was The Sims. In The Sims 2, it was one of the first games which had like tools to make movies inside. So, but it still, for me, it's interesting to see the difference in terms of attitudes. And also, I wrote a text some years ago saying that if you want to understand how web marketing is working nowadays, you have to go back to online MMORPG community management, because the term of community manager starting in World of Warcraft or other MMORPG. And this question of keeping a very strong relationship with the gamer, with the player, and actually it's really like the roots of our marketing nowadays. And Machinima is part of that. That's true that there are people who are like who need to play I don't know how many times to the same game in order to go on with their Machinima. So it's also somehow making advertising for some big brands. So that's why if I get back to this Machinima workshop during last year, I really try to promote all the type of games. Because it's also politics, and it's perhaps, I don't know, I don't want to say it's better or bad, or it's not a question of judgment, but I prefer to use independent games or games I found on my journey to promote instead of the corporations.
Yeah, support. Yeah. It's more clear now. So thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm going to show you another one that is not abstract neither, but which I did when I was in Calais 4 years ago. And I wanted to give Machinima workshop inside the camp because I had the feeling that all the media were covering the situation, you know, the migration crisis, a bit the same, like always showing people, you know, almost dying in the sea, or like making huge queues or under tents, but actually you're not talking about people, you are just like showing a very big crowd, and so everybody is losing his personality, his life, and then when you ask them just to tell about their story of crossing and the misery, so I just thought that it could be also interesting to hear other type of stories, and I wanted to make Machinima workshop to ask people to tell their daily life and what they were thinking and blah, blah, blah. But as nobody could understand what I wanted to do, they were like, why computers in the mud, why? So I started to do these short interviews. I was like creating the set in the evening and then going back to the camp and working on the face with the person I interviewed in order to show what I wanted to do after. And it gave birth to this, let's say, short documentary, just to show you that, of course, what is interesting is always to play and use different type of things. So for example, in this one, I use like photography and 3D characters, but you could use like a mix video footage and machinima. Most of my workshop are about mixing things. So just show you.
J'ai rêvé, moi. J'ai rêvé. J'ai pensé beaucoup faire un truc de différent, un truc plus sérieux à des gens. Je suis à plusieurs reprises et voilà, j'ai trouvé la solution. J'ai eu une course avec très bien, un truc responsable, mais qui permet à les gens de se communiquer. Et qui parle aussi, les frères ici, ils parlent différentes langues, donc la langue française peut être une langue commune à eux. Ils peuvent se communiquer, se distinguer, tout ça, voilà. C'est une idée des prix et de construire. Voilà. Et j'ai commencé en avril et j'ai fini le 11 juillet. 11 juillet 2015 à 14h15 d'inauguration. Ça fait plus de 300 personnes. C'est parti.
Et là, c'était la petite école.
Là, c'était la petite école.
Là-bas, là.
Ah,
Chez le chemin des Dieux. Donc, du coup, j'avais décidé après de créer.
okay. Yes. Now I don't see you anymore. Okay, so that's how I should do, I guess. Yes. And just to finish with this few samples, something perhaps a bit different. I'm not sure it will be fluid. If it's not fluid at all, I will try to find something on my computer, but you can tell me. Let's see if I have it on my computer. No. Okay, let's see if we can see it. So this is more typical of what I'm doing in game engines. I'm a C person and I do liquid videos as much as I can. So it's done with the same tool. Just to say that it's possible to do abstract things with tools that are supposed to be used to create figurative projects. So, and with this, I did an installation. It's a projection on sand, and like that, we created a sea of video, of colors. It was in a festival in Auvergne. I started to do this kind of project because in 2009, I was in Brazil and I was showing a lot of Machinima, and most of them were like ads made in Machinima, short documentaries, narratives. And at the end of the projection, somebody asked me because he said, from what I saw, most of the things are like borrowing the language of experimental cinema or video art. And his question was, I thought that there would be something different being inside the video game space. I thought that it would influence the way we tell stories. And when he said that, I totally agreed with him. That's true. It's not because we were using video game engines that we were like working differently. The type of products we were, products or artworks we were creating were or stories or like documentaries, or but there was no specificity from being inside the video game space to tell any stories. So that's where I started to think for myself that perhaps we could like use the in-game camera in order to shoot videos, films inside virtual game space, and then screen these videos in order to recreate some spaces. And I was always like very fascinated by glitches, especially for three different reasons. I love glitch and bugs in games because I do believe that in video games we are not so free. We are free to play, but we are free to follow something that was coded by the game developers, and we are supposed to follow this path and then take this flower and so on and so on. And I do believe that glitches and bugs or hacks are a way to reappropriate ourselves the video game and to create content from it. I'm also always fascinated by the idea of perhaps we can get through the image, through the code, and that there is maybe something else, another type of reality behind. Or so I always loved glitches, you know, when we were putting like CD-ROMs or DVDs, and it was like glitching totally, because it's like being able to see a little bit how the image is made and the possibility of going through again. So then in my installations, I really wanted to be able to swim in colors. My dream would be to be able to swim in these colors. So I tried to do like projections on, comment on appelle ça, de la vapeur, into vape, I think it would be that, but it was too expensive. That's how we ended to do a projection on sand. And but anyway, I'm in this moment of my research in terms of aesthetic, and that's why I'm always like trying to make and I did also another version of this, but it was made with inside Unity. And the point was really to experiment it using a VR set, and that one. I hope it's not too bad, the image. Huh? We'll see if it works. We'll see after. Anyway, maybe were you able to download or to have like 1 or 2 games on your computer? Otherwise, I will tell you where to find the games, and so that's another project. And you have to imagine that you are wearing a VR helmet and that you are like inside my colorful sea. Anyway, I stopped with my work. Yes. Do you have like games on your computer?
Any game like installed on Steam? Any game?
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
And do you have like I don't know if you are like using a PC or Mac, but do you have like a software like OBS to be able to record what is on your computer? Otherwise, you could use, if it's on the Mac, QuickTime, because there is a screen recorder. So I don't know what you have on your computer, but we can use OBS, and then there is also Fraps for Windows PC. If you, so just tell me if you have this on your machine.
Are we gonna use the Movie Storm application?
We could use if you are interested in. I'm happy to show as well.
Okay, but it's not necessary because it's not opening for me. So
okay. So I could tell you yes, I could tell you a few reasons why. Sometimes it's the Java version that is not working, or sometimes I have to download the older versions of Java. It's a Java application, but so not necessarily.
Okay.
But also, but still, if you are interested in, I'm happy to show her. If you don't have so many games on your computer, I would recommend to go on itch.io. First, because it's one of the best places to find beautiful, or not only beautiful, experimental, radical, independent games. And that's true that for some of my exhibitions or some of my projects, I enter some keywords and then try to find for example, being on the African continent, I was in Kenya last week, and I was doing a workshop there, and we were working with a Kenyan folklore storyteller, and the point was that in most of the games, especially those produced in the West, let's say, you don't have so many local assets. For example, if you need to have like a hut or a village or a traditional market, it's hard to find. So, for example, I bought the game Resident Evil 4 because that's one of 4 or 5, because it's one of the few AAA game that has like been done with African surroundings, and actually they even speak in Swahili in the game. But that's the type of issue you can encounter. Or when I was in Togo, we wanted to have like a tribal mask. So I ended by downloading Lil Tribe, the game. So also, we didn't think about that before the workshop, but I could maybe put this folder somewhere online, and if you want to get the games that are inside, most of the times, not only, there are games coming from Game Jam or Ludum Dares, or they are like coming from my travel. So with project from India or Indonesia. So if you all have games on your computer and software to record, let's try our first. So again, I'm even a bit sorry to say how easy it's to do a Machinima, but let's go. Me, I will use QuickTime because I had a little issue with OBS today. It's not recording what I want. So, but if you open OBS or your QuickTime. In OBS, it starts the recording, and in QuickTime, it's you go inside File and New Screen Recording. So I will do that first, and then I will launch a game. So you can do it also if you want. So I launched the recording, and then I'm going to get inside the game. This one is not, is French, by the way. It plays on illusions of, so I am in, and when you are like doing a machinima, of course, your mouse becomes your camera. I mean, because that's where you are looking at becomes what you see in your film. So let's try to get in this one. So it's really related to me and my personal taste, but I like abstraction, or let's put it in another way, I don't really love figurative things, so I'm super happy with this type of games. But anyway, I'm not going to stay too much inside. You just got the point. Now I'm gonna quit or stop the recording in OBS, or here in QuickTime, I stop the recording and I call my video. And then I'm gonna watch it. And of course, then I will have to edit it because I will have all the, but I can only take the moment I need. For example, from this moment, I could keep it because it's hard to say where you are and where it comes from. And then I just did the machinima. So of course I would have to add, to do some video editing. I don't see you anymore. No. Yes, for the download, it's automatic, but then, oh, by the way, if you want to use Movie Storm, I created an account because you will have to launch it, and the account is Overkill 2, and the password is Overkill 2 as well for later. I don't see, I'm just going to stop sharing. Yes, because I couldn't see you anymore. I could go on with a few other games if you want, but for the moment, making a machinima is a bit like that. I'd like to share with you some games from other places. So this one, if it doesn't make me, if it doesn't bug my computer, is more like somehow an immersive experience more than a game, but it was made. It was made in India, and it's about the Bengal famine. That's where I learned that the English people didn't do their best to preserve the Bengal region from the. Okay, now can I? They didn't do their best to preserve Bengalis from starving and almost dying, and millions, I guess, died. So this project was done, for example, in an art and game residency in India, and it was done by an artist who wanted, use game technology to speak about colonial issues. By the way, next week you will be able to discover the work of Gayatri Kodikal. She's now in a residency, I think in Tent, at Tent in Netherlands. And her work is also quite interesting, and I discovered her work last year in the same way. Maybe we could go, we could discover a game made in Japan, not only in Japan, by the way, between Japan and India. Can you see my screen is okay?
Yeah.
So this game, I discovered it in a game, in an indie game meetup, and I interviewed one of the creators. And so it's a non-binary game, and it's somehow autobiographic. And I really love this very locally aesthetic. I don't know what you think, but again, maybe here I could only take, I could only record this. So why not doing it? Because I speak about it, so I could just record some the top of here, something like that. Go back to my film and go on. So it's a visual novel. And it also deals with depression and feelings. And I really like this isometric type of view. It's influenced by a game, Kentucky Route Zero. I don't know if you know that game. I mean, for the way you interact with the. And I quit if I can, and quit time. And watch it. And so on. So then I already told you that we can use games as colors on canvas, that we can transform our film into a game mosaic. But it's also a way, I guess, to travel into different kind of aesthetic. Because the first time I realized that that games were so diverse that most of the time we cannot imagine how many games are produced per day, and with so many different kind of aesthetic gameplays. And the first time I discovered that it was in I think in 2011, and I heard about the Parrot Cart, which is a compilation of video games that was made by so you can still download it. So now it's a compilation of I guess thousand games from 378 different contributors. First, it was made in I guess 2011 by few game developers who didn't have enough money to present their game, because when you want to enter a festival, you have to pay, I guess, $90 to present your game to the GBC or something like that. So they decided to regroup and to create a compilation and to present the compilation per se to the festival. And then they did it twice or even like apparently 5 times. And thanks to that, when you download this compilation, it's a great way to discover creators. That's how, for example, when I downloaded the first time the Parrot Cart, that's how I discovered the creator of Anantropy. Before I discovered her book. I don't know if you heard about her, Anantropy. Because I don't want to make a mistake in the way I pronounce the, voilà. So that's the type of Bible I would recommend by Anantropy. It's really like a book, like a manifesto, but just to say that more and more people should create games because you don't have to be a game developer in order to create games. There are like tools that are not, that don't need to be a developer to be created. So you can use like more object orientated softwares. And to get back to the book, yes, more there will be diverse person who will create video games, more there will be diversity in terms of content, but also in terms of aesthetic. And to get back to the Parrot Cart, that's how I discovered some creators, but also we were sharing it inside an art gallery. So we had like 2 or 3 computers side by side and all connected to beamers. And people could just select one game and then another one and then another one. And finally, you were discovering that there are so many different kind of aesthetics available in video games, and it's not only about hyper-realism, it's not only about a certain vision of the world, but it can be like you will be able to discover in the exhibition of Overkill the games made by Shitty Games from Argentina. I really like their style. They call them shitty games because it's like games made in few hours most of the time. It's more a political commentary or joke about political situations. I also super enjoyed when I was in Brazil the work of Pedro Paiva, but he's more an anarchist. And he's using games as a medium to produce a political critique of the political situation. But he's also like trying to disseminate the games outside of the game world. That's really something that is important for me. Once I started a conference by saying that I hate purity and I hate cultural ghettos, which is most of the time the case. You know, people who are like interested in games will go to game events and will talk to game developers, and then the artists will only stay in their universe, and then in the galleries, in the museums, and it's very hard to create encounters and to push people to work together. But I think game jams are a good way to transform that, and but there is not a discipline that cannot be more rich or richer without mixes and fusion. So for me, it's very important. If you want, I can show you very quickly, for example, how I did something in Movie Storm. I don't know if you are interested in to see it. You tell me, because it's not an obligation. We can go on with independent games. Just before we mentioned that it's possible to use games that are on Steam for sure. What I've just done, what I did just before with Beyond Perception and No Longer Home, I could do it with one of the game of my Steam account. Tell me if it's okay, and I perhaps go to the Movie Storm. So I just told you that if you want to connect yourself, if you succeeded to download Movie Storm, and if you want to connect yourself, I created an account. So it's Overkill2 the username and Overkill2 the password. I have to say that because it's not developed anymore, and when I have like current workshops, and I create a new account every week, and then I open some object packs that are a lot, but only for 1 week. So that's why I recreate every week a new account. It's absolutely not a problem, and with the same email, and I've been doing it for like 1 year, so more than 1 year. So if you enter inside Movie Storm, you click on New Movie and then Empty Movie. It's double click, by the way. And as you can see, it's a very, very typical, seems like game, which is coupled with a video editing software, and you can also work on your camera. Knowing that if we would be inside the GTA, Grand Theft Auto, it's almost the same. You create your set, your characters, and then you can change the camera movement and etc. So on the top, you have like the access to for the set creation, the characters, and then when you're done with your characters, you can integrate your characters inside the set. Here, we are in a 3D environment. We are in as if we would be inside the game engine. For example, if I put this character here, I can make him work like that. So when I was speaking about 3D real-time rendering, it's what I meant by that. So it's generated immediately. So to get back to the first thing. So if you're inside Movie Storm, if you click on a new movie, first you can totally design your set. So you have these 6 little icons on the bottom left. And for example, if I click on this sun, I could totally erase the space around. So I click on the mountain, and I just erased it. I could change the color of the mountain. And I could change the lightings. So I'm always on this sun. And the lightings, maybe this, but not too much. Yes. So you can work on the front light and the why do I put always some pink everywhere? Anyway, so I was just playing with this sun. So on the top, it was the lightings. On the bottom, it's like to create the mountains. And something you have to know for this part is that, so you can make walls. So when I did my my maze, it was like that. So I just clicked on the first icon and then I clicked on the plus. And here you will have to hold on shift to click, left click and hold on shift. And then you can create some walls using the same thing, c'est-à-dire meaning I will use the left click and I will maintain shift. If I click on the second icon and then on the pencil looking in down, I can create the floor. So I'm selecting a color for the floor and then I hold on shift and I covered the ground. So I use this hold on shift and left click to make the walls, the ground, but I could also, going back to the sun and the mountains, I could also like elevate some mountains. So hold on shift and left click. I have to tell you that the first time I tried to do something myself because again, as a curator, I really saw that I was not an artist and it was not my job, but you can't imagine the pleasure to do these mountains. It was really my first pleasure in Wisdom. Voilà, it's a little spread, you know now. Okay, so we did the walls, the ground, and the mountains. Again, always like you hold shift and you left click, and then you have like this in the little chair, you have this object library. And if I stay there, I could use some of them. That's what I'm using. So it's not very obvious because of my lighting. So I will change that. I'm using these panels, this white object, all this, to integrate images or videos. So meaning that you could totally, if you're like, if you have this video art practice, you could integrate these panels here, and then you can change the size. At this point of the software, you can only put images. Let's put the punk arcade inside Overkill exhibition. But in the direction mode, here I could integrate video using the same white panel. And let's put some e-trash videos from Nigeria. So again, like that, you can really use Movie Storm to mix two different things. Or of course, you could do a mix using like After Effects, or you can like do chroma key, but that's one of the possibility that makes movie storm quite useful sometimes. So you can use all these objects to integrate images or videos, and then it's more common. So you can see one of the pack I haven't opened yet, so trying for 7 days, and now I will have to reopen it if I want to use them, but still I open the pack. So that's what I'm doing every week. I create a new account, open the packs that are logged. But I saw that to stay in the festival style, we could create a strange environment. So each time I click on an object, I have this window that is opening. This icon, I use it to double an object. Then this one, the green circle and with 2 arrows. Again, voila. Here, I just left click on the arrow, and I hold on the left click, and I can move the object. I can put it in the trash. Let's put other strange, or not strange, I don't know what I'm thinking, but this, what it is. Okay. Voila. Here it is, and some more trees, maybe. Or there are like also free mods. So when I'm looking for something, I always like do a free movie storms add-on, and that's how I found these weird things. Why not using it? And so on and so on. Okay, so you can see how we could do like something a bit strange. Then my characters, it's Ken and Barbie. That's problematic, but it's you can do like European, African, Asians persons, and old and young. But it's as it is. And to save one character in order to do another one, you give it a name. And then there is a third icon. Save this character to stock. Validate. And then let's create another one. So the little icon with the 2 characters plus. And not a choice like crazy, but just to show you what you can do after. I need 2 characters, so let's give a name as well. I save with the third icon, and then if I go inside my set, I can integrate my characters. So the only thing is that, as you can see, there is a square in the middle, and you can only work on your characters inside this square on the floor. So even if you can put decorations, objects outside of the square, if you want to act on these characters, you will have to stay inside the. So in this part of the software, everything is related to the right click. So if I want to place a character inside the square, it's right click on the floor. I will do the same with the other character. So I select him and then right click on the floor. Oh, he was already there. Okay, okay. I was like, oh, there is a bug. No, no, he was already inside. And let's create a meeting. So I could even, so he's in yellow. If I want to have an interaction with her, I will right click on her. Oops. Interact and let's, I cannot access. Let's, no. Well, check hands. So you can have like interactions between characters, and then you have, as you had like a library of objects, you also have like a library of animations. You see that? I have to say that now I don't really use it anymore for this. But anyway, I can still show you. And then if I want to, so I can change her facial expression, her mood, I can make some gesture. If I click on gesture, you have this plus and you have the access to these different folders. You can test an action just by clicking once, or if you want something, you double click on it and it's integrated. And then you can make him talk just by right clicking on him, say, and immediately to record my voice, or I could integrate some pre-recording voices. You need to integrate waves. Immediately to record my voice, or I could integrate some pre-recording voilà. In order to create my waves, I could just show you how I did, because maybe you'd be perhaps interested in. So here I'm going in former projects, and where is the C? I cannot. Okay. Okay, I could do it again, maybe by using this one, if it's possible. So, as I told you, my first love is to create mountains, and then most of the time, so to do that, I worked on the mountains, as I showed you before. It's inside, you know, the sun and the mountain in the bottom, and then I click on shift and I create my mountains. Otherwise, I also use this object, which is just a cartoon terrain, and I put it manis on the floor. Then, whoops. Then I worked on the lightings. That's the main thing I've done for this one. And for the seas, I also added some, let me find them, because it seems that I don't have them on this computer, but it's like some sea effects. It doesn't look like I have them on this computer. but in this computer there is some scene. I hope it's not too boring to watch all this object moving, but here is a effect water. Let's enlarge it and double it somewhere. And then, so I do my set, I do the lightings, and then I will work on the camera. And that will be my big job. So to work on the cameras inside the movie store, you just have to double click in the image in the middle. And here you have like a menu that just opened. The first icon is to work on the focal. So you can work on the depth of your image. Then you will have the possibility of doing a cut image or fixed image or a camera movement. So let's imagine I want to start my movie almost here. Here I can work with the left click and the right click, or with W, S, D, A, I guess. So like in a video game, for the movement. So let's say I want to start my film here. I also have like R to go up and F to go down. So let's imagine I start my movie here. So I will use the red scissors, and my movie is starting here. Okay. And now I will leave like 6 seconds. Again, I double click in the image to be able to change my position, and maybe right click like that. And this time I will click on the green button. And then I look at what I've done. And here, why not? So I double click again. And let's cross the colors and do another movement of camera. So again, the possibilities are not totally limited, but or you do like cuts or you do like camera movements. And then I would have to go in the editing part, and I will see what I've done. And then I can render custom, and it will render the will render. The other possibility is if you have a character, walking, you can follow the character. Oh yes, I could show you this one maybe. Which is a project I've done with a pianist. So the name of the video is Blue Mountain. But actually here, what I've done is I am using the camera to follow the character because he's walking, pardon. Oh la la. So to do that, I actually targeted him, and then I clicked on the red button, and the camera is following his movement. That's basically Movie Storm. Would you like to see more, or would you like perhaps to see the difference in GTA, or tell me if you have questions or what you'd like to see more?
I had a question for you, Isabella. Thank you. First of all, thank you for showing the Movie Storm software. It looks a lot like, I've used CAD and SolidWorks for mechanical engineering, but this sounds kind of similar.
Can you repeat the name of the one you are using? Because I'm interested.
SolidWorks, it's more for 3D rendering and finding like finite element analysis. But I think they use similar stuff for games with cars. So like GTA, they might use this to assess like how certain cars react to impact in these games. But I was curious, like, because you talked about not being an artist, but being more of a curator. And then what led you to express art in this way and create it in a digital form?
What the verb in the question, what drove me?
Yeah, what drove you to create art this way?
Okay.
Why do you like
Thank
this?
you. Yeah. I actually, the first one I've done, the Eye is Another, was I was working for a festival. The name is Gamers in Aix-en-Provence, and every year I was presenting a Machinima exhibition, and that's with them that I started to take Machinima from movie theaters and start to exhibit them as artworks and not as just movies that you are watching in the cinema. But to get back to Gamers, they wanted me to introduce my exhibition, and this time it was about, again, identity in video games. And they said, oh, you should do like a Machinima to present your exhibition. And I said, okay. And that's how I created this first video. And then I showed you the one in Calais. Again, my point was not to make a Machinima documentary in Calais, because that's what it became after and how it traveled around the world in different exhibitions. My point was to organize Machinima workshop and to show what I wanted to mean by Machinima and blah, blah, blah. Then what I was about to show you, this one. So I was doing a residency, and I was, we were like 5 artists, again, staying in the same house. And there was one pianist, and each time she was looking at me, preparing my workshops, and she was like, can you do that with your software? Can you do that with your software? And then she proposed me to do a collaboration with her. The same happened with a choreographer a few years before. We wanted to make like workshop together in order to mix the choreographic writing, je sais pas si on dit comme ça en français, en anglais, and storytelling inside video games. And then he said, oh, we could do a collaboration. So to answer your questions, most of the time, it was like invitations of other creators to do something with me, but not like my will to say, oh, I want to do that. And the first time I proposed someone to put music on my work was for the first installation I presented 2 years ago, the sea projected on the sand. it was really the first time that it was coming from me. So to answer your question, I'm still not super comfortable with the artist name, and what I love is to collaborate with others. I really love that. It's also part of my tour. So, for example, I collaborated with a musician in Buenos Aires, and I did like a VJ performance. I just did the same in Kenya, and that's funny because the organizer of the festival in Kenya saw that I would use images from the Machinima or images from Kenya. And actually, I told the person, no, it was really the fruit of our collaboration with the DJs. And what I selected was really the reflection of his taste and aesthetic, and I really tried to. So, if there is something that drives me, it's the need to collaborate and to mix disciplines and aesthetics and.
Cool. Yeah, it's organic. It's organic. It just happens.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
It's not really. I heard many times artists telling me, you know what it means to be an artist is when you cannot live without creating. When I hear that, I feel like, oh, I'm not an artist, you know. I maybe live as an artist, but I have too much respect for artists to say that. Yes. But I started to paint. I used to do like watercolors, but really as a hobby, since I was like 20 years old. And when I was in Togo during the confinement, I started to paint large scale canvas.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm super happy. I really feel like I'll be like I'm 48. So I'm really like this kind of new, young, old, I don't know what, artist. Anyway. But I would be very, very happy to go on collaborations. I'm doing my best to be able to travel again in 2021. And I really do hope to initiate other collaborations, and I love to share, and I love to learn. So yeah, and and also because we were like starting with you. Sorry, I don't want to be rude. I'm not sure. I remember it's Samantha. Huh? We started to speak by this how you can use games to tell stories, but more generally, I do believe that we can use technologies. It's also called the tactical media, you know, but we can we can hack technologies to recall some hidden stories, to reveal things that have been hidden for so many years or cycles. If we think about oral traditions and oral histories, using technologies, but I mean, we could use a camera, and it's not like because you are using a game or it's something new and we are reinventing the wheel. Huh? But I still do believe that technologies can be used to reveal what is hidden, what has been forgotten. last Saturday we were speaking with a woman, wonderful persons in Nairobi, and they were telling me that because of colonization, because of Christianity, they almost don't speak well their language anymore. They are like totally disconnected with their culture. So when I hear that, I just want to do like workshops with like elder people and younger people, and why not to create a game to recall these stories. That's the project that was done, for example, in Brazil, in Recife, by so I remember the name of the project right now. I'm not sure I will be able to remember the name of the people who are behind, but they created this project. The name is Contos de Ifa, and it's about ancestrality and Africanity, and how we can create games that will speak about Yoruba culture, Candomblé beliefs, and just before, when we were talking with Marie last week, I also met a game developer who was showing me a game he just did during his studies about the Kipande system during the colonial era, where people of color had to wear a plate with a number saying who they were owned by and where they were coming from. And so I do believe in the possibility of using games as weapons, but to offer like counterfictions and disseminate them toward the new generation, perhaps to change a little bit, you know. If something is not provided by schools, why not disseminating in all the networks?
Right, but like you said, there are so many games. There are so many games to play, and so many stories to be told. And especially in the indie game, like these like shitty games you were talking about, made in Argentina, they're a lot of fun. But then it's hard to see all of them, and how can you appreciate everything that's made?
It's hard, but we really have to be proactive for that, because there are not really spaces. I mean, the work that is doing Overkill as a festival is amazing, because I don't know, maybe there are, but do you know any place in Netherlands, for example, where you could access this type of content? I mean, I'm asking the question for Netherlands. I know that in Belgium there was like K10. I can't remember where it was exactly in Belgium, but it was one of the first place to discover indie games every month, with a good selection made by Julien Hanard. In Paris, you had like a game corner inside La Gaieté Lyrique, which was offering also like games on a comment dire, often. Oh là là, c'est dur. Pardon, but otherwise, if you are not like a game passionate, where can you find these games? Because even if you are like hardcore gamers, most of the time you will know the most famous games. So yes, it's hard to access them, but still it's good to give a try to change a little bit, you know, the type of game we will play. Because my issue is when I hear like, again, young people telling me that they only find hyper-realistic games beautiful because it looks like real, so it's beautiful, but then it's not really looking like real, because it's an over real, it's hyper real, it's not really reality. So if we are not proactive, and I'm also like trying to preach for more indie games in schools, but like in high schools, junior, senior high schools, even before the university. But just to, you know, like we need to open our taste, because if we are just used to food at school and our taste is not like super diversified, I would say that the same for video games. If you are only used to triple A hyper realistic aesthetics, it's hard to be able to appreciate other kind of aesthetics. So yeah. So I try to preach for more indie games in schools in order to change that a little bit as well, because it works all the time. When you show a machinima done in GTA, people will tell you, wow, it's very good quality. I mean, 5 or 6 years to produce the game. I don't know how many millions. Yeah, the image is good quality, you know. But then it's a certain type of aesthetic. And okay, it's perhaps very personal. I'm not really, because I already said I'm not super into figuration, but I'm not really also into hyper realism, because I think that with hyper realism, we don't have anything to imagine. I wrote a text for an exhibition. The name was Games Reflections. I hope it's the right, yeah. And this game, this exhibition was dealing with the fact that we can make a parallel between the evolution of art in art history and the evolution of game design in the game, in games. And so I was doing this parallel, saying that in art history, we try to go more and more towards realism and even hyper-realism till the invention of photography. And when photography was invented, it was not possible to make like more realistic than photography. So it opened the door to abstraction, cubism, and other type of representation, but not like just trying to mimic reality. And I presented games trying to show the evolution of the aesthetics from ASCII to very pixelated games, and polygons, and then more and more polygons and hyperrealism. But saying that when we were playing, for example, if you think about Pong, which is like really, if you think about minimalism, can be more minimalist. I mean, like one dot and one line, and then our imagination is making the rest, you know. And also going back to this idea of lack of freedom in video games, it's perhaps also lack of imagination, because when you read a book, you are trying to imagine the characters, imagine the landscape. When you play a game where you have a line and dots, you are making, you know, all the work to make it look like two tennis players. And so that's why I'm not super into hyperrealism, because I think that it doesn't give a lot of space to imagination between two dots or two pixels. Or so I wrote a text about that that is present in this exhibition. but still, we can still look at how you can make a machinima inside GTA, which is totally possible. And by the way, there is a great machinima that was done in the UK, talking about the theories of Franz Fanon. So it's
Yeah, I remember the Overkill is one of a series of festivals we have in Enschede. The earliest one is Gokbot, and there were some students who created some of their games, but yes, it was very regimented, but like daily activities. So when you wake up, what do you do first? You go drink some water, then you have to go to the station to put on your clothes or something. It was very, yeah, just very linear, but there was no room for interpretation. But these games seem to be, people are trying to create what you have in reality in these games. But they just seem kind of boring compared to GTA, WoW, or I like this game called Fez on Steam because you explore different worlds and different perspectives, but it's very simple, but still has this like magic realism aspect to it.
And also, to follow what you just said, if we discover a lot of indie games or experimental games, okay, it opens our eyes and our taste for different kind of games, but it also shows you what you could do if you would try to make your first game.
Mhm.
And I think it's also important. For example, I gave like few workshops in game school in India, but also just last week in Nairobi. And it's always good to remember what is like possible to do in a short amount of time with like the available tools that are around, and perhaps think more about what you want to express than how you want to express it. Ça y est, j'ai trouvé ces findings Fanon.
Have you heard of the game Half-Life? Or have you ever played this game?
Half-Life, I just used the mod of Half-Life, Gary's mod.
Okay.
But one of the first machinima was done in Half-Life.
Ah, cool.
I used to show it a lot. So what is the name? I'm not sure I have it. If you want to have a look to, and then I will think about but that's the machinima that was done in, in GTA by the artist Larry at Champagne. And for me, it's a very good one, but let me see if I can. And then I will try to remember the title of where is finding fun. Maybe here. Because I also wrote a text about about machinima situationist movies. It's available on my website. Thinking that as situationists were using like kung fu movies in order to speak about dialectics, you know, you can totally use a violent game in order to speak about whatever you want, by the way. And so for me, using a medium that is perceived as a mass media tool, it's an amazing, again, weapon to touch and to be able to reach some kind of audiences. And the problem is that we, again, need to propose counterfictions because, for example, the Islamic State is using a lot machinima to attract young audiences. There are a lot of machinima made, and especially with GTA or with Halo, they use this medium in order to attract new audiences. So we need to present a counter offensive to that, I would say, in order to, let's see. I hope I'm showing what I want to show you.
Warheads, bullets, fire spark, instead of the old paper printing machines. Society is formed to breed resources, and with humanity lost, it is almost impossible to dream.
So here, for example,
The dreams we once
they
had
use
as
the
children,
director's mode
the ones we
to
wish
change the
our lives
character.
were meant to be.
Then they, in the director's mode, they put like the weather into
Life is built up of relentless movements.
raining.
Time doesn't stop.
Then they
There
play
will
it
always be a
and
past,
they get
present,
inside
and
the
future.
sequence
I'm scared.
and they change the point of view of the camera.
Biggest
Right
fear
now
is
we
the
are in
fear
the
of
game
the
point of
unknown.
view, but again they
There's
use
only so
the
much you can know about the future because it hasn't happened yet.
and for long my favorite machinima was the name was This Spartan Life. And Malcolm McLaren. For very long, it has been my very favorite machinima ever, because for me it was typically the best merge between theory and
Malcolm McLaren
entertainment.
has had a blazing career since the early
And
70s.
so the concept of This Spartan Life was to invite people from I don't know, the art world, the game world, to discuss about games or about their work, but inside the game environment. And they were using the online and the network version of Halo, meaning that every person who will play to the game will record what is on his or her screen. And then like that, if you play like at 5 persons, you will have like 5 different point of views of the same scene. But when he was invited, so the name of the artist is Chris Burke, when he was inviting guests, most of the time, and for example, this one, Malcolm McLaren, was not a really like a pure gamer. So he had to defend his guest against the other players who didn't know that there was like a game show or TV show happening. And what I love in this one, so I will try to let them speak, but Malcolm McLaren is at one point speaking about having magnificent failures instead of little successes. And then he's like speaking about the new generation who will be like the hacker because they know how to hack mass media. For me, it's what I love, to, you know, to have like a critical point of view of the tool you are using and to use this tool, la mise en abîme, voilà. So I will...
Success. But you seem to
it
like
was
to grab
just
the public.
now.
There must be an
Wow.
old wisdom about artists that if they just keep doing what they're doing long enough, the public will eventually take notice and they'll find some kind of success. But you seem to like to grab the public's attention with one idea, only to turn it about face with the next. I guess I'm looking for a sort of thread that weaves together all the different disparate projects that you've undertaken.
Well, back in London, at the dawn of the 1960s, I entered art school. And the first lecture of the day was given to us by a goatee-bearded, old corduroy-dressed painter. And he looked at us and said, So you think you're going to be successful painters, sculptors? He said, well, no, You're all gonna bloody fail. And then we thought, oh my God, I've only been in the school a half an hour. He said, remember, any kind of benign success was never worth having. Much, much better, he said, to fail magnificently. And with that thought, I was off into the big wide world.
Anyway, that's what I love in this Spartan life. But that's what can be done with any type of games. And I will finish like that. And just to say that it's totally legal to make Machinima because of the reasons I mentioned previously, because they will love you to use their games to promote their game. But the only thing is that you are not supposed to get any IP from your creations. But otherwise, it's totally legal, even encouraged.
What did you say? We're not supposed to get any
IP. So you're not supposed to be paid for your work. But then I used to show a film, Martin Pleur, which is also done in GTA. Let me see if I find it quickly. Should be there anyway. Otherwise, I can perhaps have a sample here. And I had to pay 100 euros to show his film. So maybe he got like an agreement with Rockstar Video Games. Maybe not, or maybe the rules have changed, but he's getting like diffusion rights for his stream.
Je sais pas si tu as eu mes précédents messages. Je t'appelle car j'ai vu une fille dans la rue. Elle portait les mêmes chaussures que tu avais en 6e. Tu sais, celles avec les nuages sur les côtés.
And he got like many prizes in short film festivals. And so, but something I'm sure about is it's totally legal. So why not?
Thank you so much for the workshop, Isabelle.
Thank you for listening to me. I mean, for your Saturday. I hope also that you can perhaps grasp and see how you could integrate this into your practice.
Mm-hmm.
This is my best.
Yeah, I feel really inspired by this. I'm really eager to start making new games.
Cool.
So,
also, I'm gonna write my my email. Okay, I'm gonna write my email here because if you want me to answer questions or if you don't remember anything or if you need anything, you can contact me. I'll be happy to answer and stay in touch. I would love to see what you you will maybe do with this. If it's useful, I would be like very happy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Personally, you gave us like more tools or more inspiration indeed. Like, yeah, one might think like recording your desktop is not exciting, but you can actually tell a story or convey a message or design something different from your point of view and your experience. So I was thinking like now with the festival, they curated this space for the online exhibition. And I was just thinking, I might go there and explore, but use OBS to what would be my experience of attending the festival. But instead of being in a game, being in the space that they for the expo. I'm talking about this expo space.
That's now, because of course it's just a tool, and then hopefully everyone is like thinking, oh, okay, now I could do that. I couldn't avoid doing it, so I did it.
Nice.
Yeah, because I was like, I loved, so I did it twice. Ooh la la. But I did it. Yeah, I couldn't, I was like, wow, because, and that's something I told Marie just before. Instead of reproducing again the white cube, inside the virtual space, because but it's not the right one I wanted to show you. It's the lobby. I wanted to show you the exhibition.
I also did screen recording from the inside. It was so nice.
I mean, it's a beautiful space. It's not a white cube. For once, we are like really experiencing something different. I mean, it was absolutely lovely, and I hope to come back as soon as possible to dance. I don't know if you were there for the aerobic dance 2 years ago. It was really cool, but we couldn't experiment this kind of exhibition in a physical space, or perhaps not now, and that's great. And I also use this Machinima technique to do like some because during my world tour I interviewed a lot of persons, but first I only had like a microphone, and most of the time they're like explaining me their work, and if you don't see their work while they are speaking, it's a bit like so what I've done using the Machinima pushing button technique, I did this podcast, and for example I did this one. So I did this video. So you can hear my interview, which was in Indonesia, in Yogyakarta, but while she's talking, I'm online on her website, and she did a residency at the Schloss Solitude. It's an online residency. So I was like surfing on her website and blah, 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 and I recorded myself. And like that, I was able to. So yeah, Machinima is sometimes just a tool, and you can do whatever you want with it. Huh?
Yeah, you made me think of this. In Spanish, you have this saying. I always have sayings for everything, but like, no es el instrumento, es el músico. So it's not the music. It's not the instrument. It's the musician. So now with the movie storm, yeah, movie storm is the instrument. But then again, we as musicians, we are like, we need to play. We can play with like a super fancy studio maker. I don't know, pay a lot of money for software, but you can make also interesting things with this tool that you just show us. So thank you for that reminder.
Mm. Oh yeah, it's natural as soon as it's not in the hands of. It always depends on who is doing what. Mm.
Yes.
And it's available and doesn't need too many means to make. That would be the main difference compared to traditional cinema or video, even if now we have these phones, but still.
Yeah. A lot of possibilities. Now the time and the discipline and the practice is the other thing.
Oh yeah, you're right. And by the way, I'm supposed to now go back online on Discord to mentor a game jam made between Argentinians and French designers, and that's the last day. So before to come back to the Overkill exhibition and performance, I will have to watch their games. But yeah, many possibilities. Thank you, Henri, for your attention, and I'm
Thank you
here.
so much.
I mean, there, somewhere, if you need anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I hope
Bye-bye.
everything will be
Thank
okay
you.
for
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you around.
Take
Enjoy the game
good,
cam.
yes, please. And take a good care of yourself.
You
Bye-bye.
too. See you. Bye-bye.
Merci.
Bye.